Dear Americans and Russians, there is an election crime method in our countries, other countries too, per how we are shared here. So you guys have representatives, and America has representatives like former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants involved with the DeMoro family, and many people associated with the Hansen family, intercities, on and off campuses, involved with predicate acts. Now, there were little boys and girls I don't know the names of in my grammar school, where and how they exploit phenomenon like, for example, people are in the same grade, but they're in different classes, they don't see each other, know each other. And they're putting conduits, they're putting people fake conversation, they're sequence shifting. They're having types of, this is also how it's intercampuses, the campuses training the police, and the school leaderships, and how they stack names. Then they pretend, then it sounds like you know these people. That they try to record exceptions. They tried to, in other words, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They tried to make an exception in a cafeteria one time, where Lucinda approached me, the one associated with Justin Klavinskis. Now, these are people involved with foreign and domestic medical doctors and other private database relationships involved with them with on-off campuses, predicate acts, and inter-branch campus acts, predicate acts. So when we're talking about fact treatments and sequence, where sequence shifts are not being allowed to be reported, both political parties are complete possession of criminally foreign influence, self-valued criminally foreign influence, have been exploited that way. From off campuses, from off database relationships, simultaneously kept needing to hide live aggressions to campuses, but then using their kids to pretend passions and emotions, their own, and that's what's recorded. See, we have to deal with what is simultaneously, because they have crime methods individually grouped in together, and we have to deal with this because there is also more. That's where there are victim predators, but you can't just talk about how they are victims, because they're each lying about us simultaneously, distinctly, and they're self-valuing illusions in databases that no one's ever checked, because of all the polarities that are related to phenomena of people self-valuing, how they make it self-valued on and off campuses, identity thefts and frauds. Now, these are also people that are racially and culturally charged as the ones that are simultaneously pretending to be about America as all theater narratives, and as roles with this, where they have grammar schools. There's a grammar schools, and then usually it's like 2 years for middle school, 4 years for high school. They're using people's names through kids that in other words, and then they're calling people liars, but not bringing up the lie or the context, because they have people lying offensively in sustained ways. Now, see, that was a sustained, worse than torture, slavery of our founding parents too. But rather than have that self-valued, our means to tell about that now, honestly, we have self-valued, then pretended roles with it. Not by accident. There are juxtaposed natures of organized crime, natures of predicate acts roles, as wrongdoing, sequence shift roles, identity thefts and frauds, everyone speaking where through others and other things, themselves. With this, an illusion. So both political parties are involved with medicines crimes and drugs crimes that are direct, and methods that are directly related to them fabricating audio and video into databases, and their roles with predicate acts from there, because now they need to hide from and keep her self-valued correlation nature. All the answers to science, all the capabilities of science are right there to be understood. Excuse me, they're not complicated, they're just extensive. But we have what is extensive using the identity of truth that is still its same identity as exceptions, prevented from being used by our words. offensively, we have political parties and leaders that want voting to be our voice rather than sequence true, rather than mandated law true. And now, so you have to understand what they are sustaining through grammar schools. Now, this is not just sexual, but it is also necessary to bring up how it's sexually natured crimes and the roles of women interbranch with this. And with physical delusions, too, with the men. Because they have roles to preventing people from free speech and sustaining that. Sustaining their roles with identity thefts, frauds, fabricating audio and video into databases, tying increasingly verbally wire crimes, mail crimes. You know, so we're in this trap that is recorded clear as day. Way less than what we are capable of to cause evolution's fruits and gifts and positive value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures. So we have to, when we're talking about these things, the executive branch means FBI, CIA. The judicial branch, judges, prosecutors, state's attorneys, rolls with that on off those locations, on off their everyone's neighbors, because this is a fact-cheaping nature racketeering method, worse than war crimes, where it's keeping correlation nature, worse than just sabotaged. And while right through the people pretending to be about integrity anyway, as victims, but as victim predators. So it's a truth that you have to have courts to decide things, but where and how their identity, the ground locations where are criminally involved. We need federal stewardships of Connecticut and of interstates, and we need this across the globe because we're in a semi-ancient trap. Suits and ties counters are recorded premises treatments and allegations treatments outside of courts and with locations and related to them, opinions and convictions that can't be defended and afford to have anyone use short words protracted that is using the identity of truth, that is still its same identity as exceptions. So inventions work or not in relationship to its identity, of relationship to itself, which is also increasingly in value. So it's invisible but still discernible. And the value of that, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. Everything is three identities of possession. Everything that is, some of that, for example, there are proofs that the ancients would draw A on the left side of a stick figure's head and W on the right side of it, and a halo, lit or not, or lit when there are two victories as the same one. There are three victories. Like, for example, the capital W is two V's, and V stands for victory, and together they stand for wall. So there's a Lucinda that I never had conversation with, anything to do with in grammar school, and there are men and women that were involved with abuse of her and of other boys and girls in ways that they wouldn't even understand. Like, for example, these are people involved with Hartford courts and with New Britain Superior Court and with Middletown courts that were also with military and state police, other police forms, not just former director, but in his defendant capacities, leading up to and in a 2006 case, with people also further leading up to the World Trade Center attack context in the Ninth Circuit Court right next to it. It was proven afterwards they had presented post-dated documents, post-dated from inside the Ninth Circuit. So they ruled it was late. That proven it had been brought in on time, and someone had or people had colluded to, or whatever. They post-dated the documents. So we went to that case in the court right next to the World Trade Center right before it. And there are also a pattern of other sequence shifts in other cases that haven't been proven, but they're recorded. It's also involved with names forging and switching at state's attorneys and people associated with Washington, D.C., and with the World Trade Center, and with the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Department of Transportation, a former Mayor Gold, and other mayors, and roles with the syntax, the racketeering, identity theft, frauds, and stuff like that. Also, Facebook, they have roles with Facebook pages, interbranch, recorded and involved with sequence shifts, identity theft, frauds. Worse than extortion, torture. And so we need to get the names of the judges and prosecutors and their narratives into sequence. And this is how they are victims. We need to let them show. We need to record how they are preventing us from demonstrating how they're victim predators by fabricating audio and video into databases, fabricating sequences. These are Connecticut courts now, because that proven led to a 2006 district court case where former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on Racketeering, Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, Robert Luskin, and his lawyer, Robert Chevalier. For example, they're also on off the location of Harry Beecher Stowe House and the Mark Twain House, involved with people, with prosecutors involved with Jonathan Maiano, with themselves and their family members, with predicate acts as victims, as victim predators, because everyone's speaking through other criminally. Now they have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes where they give the benefit of the doubt, and they have been giving the benefit of the doubt to interbranch with them individually grouped and together, distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous crime methods. Here and there, with the Russians are also involved with this a Leahy family of doctors, like 4 or 5 generations, and a whole bunch of people tied to them, like the Lombardo family. I never saw either of their families on my street. I never had a conversation with the Leahy family. They fabricated whole detailed fake conversations with me and proven federal criminals in various natures of cases that, since before they got caught, were involved with them. Also using elections crimes a lot, where you can lie about people with elections to pretend to hide libel aggressions with that. And as people involved with their family members themselves and with the police forms on and off the campuses through time roles with predicate acts, with people associated with uses of this Lucinda and her uses of her kids to hide her libel aggressions in relationship to uses of them near the Samuel Dix house. That was implied and demonstrated and involved with uses of investigations, investigators, and identities of the law by a breaching method. That is a predicate acts delivery system method. Now the story of Romulus and Remus becomes science when it becomes about this. See, Romulus and Remus agreed that if one of them ever came over the walls of Rome, after they breached Rome, after they built it, the Republic, the Republic, because there's a difference where and how people's identities are defenses of fake identity. All locations, areas, and states of and as each modern nation are criminally foreign influenced. There is a DeMoro family, and there were families, and a Scalora family is, for example, associated with Italy, and with police forms and military, foreign and domestic, that are involved with psychology, and with medicines racketeering, and with drugs racketeering that uses that, not just for that. It uses the motivations for all roles of nature, all bad things with that, but it uses it for the libel aggressions. Not just for that, where it makes them self-valued, identity of the ground, all locations, areas, states, how they are criminally foreign influenced. So America has this problem with prisons, also because they kept the remotely used. See, they have overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the interbranch kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive lies, and identity thefts and frauds roles, with their individuals individually grouped in together. And that's evidence. It is evidence that and how the breaching method that forced those laws exactly the way they were, and that sustained, and it forced sustained uses of that, which were premises oriented, which were theater positive treatment oriented. See, if anyone spoke about the law with passions and emotions true, and it would be revealed, what the ancients had revealed, how there are five distinct, how there are 1/3/5, where even the identities of the number, just like the identities of notes with music, the identities of the alphabet, they have distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous relationship to themselves, that is positive or negative, in demonstration of what will only stay positive unto itself, with demonstration of Earth's distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous relationship to the rest of space, nature, being, its relationship to itself, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, where Earth is yet concentrated, where the rest of Earth has no criminal foreign influences, legalized criminal foreign influences, and overtly criminal foreign influences. Now, this is where this keeps syntax nature, kept and keeps syntax nature, premises in defense of it, that is blaming other things other than themselves, even when correctly here, all juxtaposed. It's leaving out what was using that. What's keeping self-valued clear as day, abridged sciences, therefore abridged constitution grounding, breaching screens, pretending other, breaching tools, weapons. Victims forced to speak through others, forced to speak through vetting that hides how it is fake integrity, hides from the nature of the laws, words, so our own, and sequence true. So there are spots where they had slavery in the past that are involved with one method /S, a whole bunch of other methods, nature, like with the people, like with the Lucinda. I don't know her. I never had a class with her. She's involved with judges, prosecutors, state's attorneys, and people with the former director of the FBI with federal criminals since before they got caught, where they were spreading lies, and uses of that were being made. Now that's also relevant because there are women who were, when they were girls, they went to Trinity College, and there are also evidence. There's a Joshua Stryker involved with other men and women, involved with abuses of boys and girls that are intercampuses connected. That's Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. This is also he's involved with people next to that live there since before those kids were born. Involved with predicate acts within Iowa family also. Involved with predicate acts on and off Trinity College through time connected in Hartford. On and off other Hartford campuses. They're with a store next to Buckley High School. So now these are roles with medicine racketeering and logic racketeering, identity thefts and frauds roles our Justice Department has, where they are used remotely, and where they have problems where they have to keep checking each other, vetting each other, so they have to stay close. While they're hard, they're in collusion with uses of database racketeering, a method of identity thefts and frauds that was effectively already kept through generations, lie progressions from those spots onto each standing identity of the ground's correlation nature. Each age of it, each difference, where and how this method knew that as fact treatment fake difference, no longer following by that identity of truth that is native pure, that one that is still its identity as truth, without the slightest exception denied, or value being or having been value denied. It is evidence that and how criminally foreign influence sciences were/are behind victim predator roles, blaming on other things, others, and selves, the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, where there are shootings all the time, and where there are shootings where it doesn't happen that often. They have ties to the same people involved with the same remote uses of themselves. We have to have forgiveness, not to just let that go, but because we also have to deal with those enabling them to get away with distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously preventing us from making a subject, like about the sequence shifts, like about the mail crimes, wire crimes, fake conversations. In his private capacities, Hartford courts, in the British courts, leading up to the World Trade Center attack, in that context, and leading up to a 2006 district court case, and since that case, like Kuwaiti military, Eric Burgess, and that Lucinda, I never, 2 times, then one when I was older, and near that building where they reported the serial killer in the body dumping spot. Real or made up, that serial killer is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with medicines racketeering and drugs crimes, but it's also evidence racketeering. These are people that work with Sandy Hook, also involved with houses on my street through time, involved with drugs crimes, medicine crimes, identity theft, frauds. Over the past 3.5-4 months, Wethersfield police called from with the Wethersfield town offices, and how they have the switch of their police department to another location through time, also criminally involved. They have Afghanistan families, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated involved with the officers, with something they're ducking behind, with people associated with Taekwondo plays, and we're all along Route 3 involved with identity thefts and frauds, with the courts, family members, and themselves personally criminally involved. I don't know the, so in other words, and there's a Chet Casper also involved with downtown Hartford with predicate acts. I never had a conversation with him in my life verbally. And he's involved with sequence shifts and all other people. He had a friend that approached me and told me he was coming to fight me. In other words, that's part of the sequence shifts. I never had a conversation with him before or after that, and there were confessions about him. That was when I was in middle school. There were confessions about him when I was in grammar school. I didn't know him. I mean, in other words, I heard his name before. But see, that's tied to a former Mayor Gold. Also, with his kids, a Debbie Gold and a Lee Gold, and I don't know how many kids they have, or what her maiden name is now. But she's got a whole bunch of people involved with them, and her neighbor and their neighbors. That's also part of the thing where investigators, and identities of law are being and having been used remotely. So it is clear as day, way below human correlation nature, to pretend that integrity spoke anywhere, let alone for our most forsaken areas. The suburbs are sickly, distinctly victims, prevented free speech. And people say, well, at least it's not that, which is the, like New York City, things we see when we see it on television or on YouTube. Hartford too, but Hartford is masked more, because it's clear as day. Only that how people pretend passions and emotions formally. They self-value simultaneously that which is keeping that self-value, because they have all the answers we needed when we were in grammar school. All the answers that got blocked out by people pretending in passions and emotions timed too. No. And then no one's going to be able to, there's no place to respond to that. And then there are uses of it. And see, this is where people speaking through others is being forced. This is where and how it is recorded evidence, that and how the judicial branch and the executive branch are covering up what is actually recorded evidence per their wire crime methods and mail crime methods, and role stacking databases with fabricated audio and video, and methods of doing this where they tell the schools, "Oh, this person lies, so say it like this," and then they make people say fake things, and they're furthering. These are where the investigators are evidence recorded criminally foreign influence. These are with identity of the ground locations where they forged sequence shift roles and fake sides of correlation nature. There is an officer, Jerry Miller, who also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated to other officers interbranch involved with predicate acts with a Kerr family. And a Kerr family also confirmed this. I don't know them. They confirmed it in middle school with confessions about the people associated with former Mayor Gold, and the fire departments also with people on and off Trinity College involved with predicate acts, with agencies, with uses of kids from off campuses. These are judges and prosecutors and their family members with other natures of crimes that also had fact-cheating nature predicate acts roles and identity thefts and frauds roles, uses of investigators on off Trinity College and on off CCSU already. So they're lying about the integrity of people when we speak. They're involved with, remote uses after and while they are being and having been used remotely. They're making private companies further and further used remotely by them for identity thefts and frauds. That's why they're going after behavior. They're not going after what is actually sequence true, what is actually integrity true. They're setting up and have been setting up innocent people and hiding their roles with that which is to all locations connected, where and how we have no integrity of fact-cheating nature formally, individually grouped and together because of their individual grouped and together crime methods to hide themselves and their family members and all tied to them, where they are involved with fact-cheating nature racketeering, with database racketeering, sequence shifts that are through time connected. It's also all kinds of ways medical families connected, attaching me to fake conversations with teachers, including the ones I had that I never had a conversation with personally. They don't even, though everyone will tell you this is true. But see, but they ask people they about phenomena that are not real. They make people say things. In other words, they don't even know what they're talking about. And then they twist what they say anyway. They put people in quotes, though, too, to make it look real. They put me on the fake quotes and fake communications verbally with with one of the Mendez police, but both of them are criminally involved with on and off the Wethersfield Police Department, identity thefts and frauds, as ones who were involved in the past with identity thefts, frauds, drugs crimes, medicine crimes, evidence crimes, falsified police reports when they were little kids with that. I never had a class with them. Now they're also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a whole bunch of people on off CCSU and Trinity College with juxtaposed natures of organized crime, uses of them. They also use black and white. Can't defend that, what they say, and afford anyone's voice actual. And then so they're pretending our voice is that. These are victim reactions that are propagated to keep them self-valued. We have to deal with the grammar school. Right now we have to deal with the wire crime methods. I want to know why they left out the confessions and the other names like a Mike Levine. Is also, and how they name stack, and then they pretend people make allegations. Courts that aren't supposed to be doing that. See, because they know they've been hiding live aggressions. It's all juxtaposed natures of organized crime, where and how the female judges and old women are involved with these little sick kids that are being involved with identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts. Pretended conversations with strangers, same ones involved with people on the child sex offender registry. This is how there's problems through time that we hear about this stuff, whether they real or made up. They're involved with that even further, especially if they made it up. So we have evidence reception racketeering, where everyone's forced to speak through others, and that's consciously exploited and being and having been exploited. WFSB and Fox Connecticut News, they have roles with Russians and with the sources of CNN that has crime methods where they have the people's narratives in relationship to parties self-valued as criminal insidious natures of positive and of negative, in collusion with insidious natures of positive and overtly fake positive, and insidiousness natures of negative and overtly negative, in collusion. Now, see, they need everyone blaming other things other than themselves, people sick with other people's names. So so they could just keep, exploiting what is intercampuses connected also from off them. But it's a method that already did that, so it kept defenses of that as premises treatments. We have physical delusions raw premises treatments. Every time someone makes an opinion about what the cause is of things on areas that have recorded overtly juxtaposed natures, and we have narratives where they have excuses. Every good excuse is used, self-value used, and having been used by that sophistication, rolls with that sophistication of that breaching method that made methods. So you force those things to locations. It's not just, it makes a whole bunch of methods of liars, interest, So where the experts are incapable of speaking for us is our evidence too. And where they pretend passion and emotions, they make allegations against people. They call people names. And they use evidences with database information. But see, they're preventing mandated law outside of courts. One-way reports. So this is also uses of narratives with the witch trials, recorded effectively used to keep how George Washington and why he had to come to Wethersfield, Connecticut to meet with the French general right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Worse than obfuscated. This is exploiting where and how our founding parents didn't have free speech. They were forced to speech with everyone else, as the law has forced that. Already to an extent where any unities were incapable of being anything other than criminal insidious natures, a fake difference, self-valued. More and more. Correlations, non-existence. Correlation, sabotage, decimation. In relationship to an identity's value, which is a relationship to positive and negative simultaneously because of where and how that identity of truth is self-generated. That one that is itself still there, its identity as truth, as all exceptions, in all exception nature, not valuing that having been denied. It is where and how we are fact-cheaping nature, that is a breaching method that is preventing us free speech while pretending to be for it and quoting laws that they have criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought readings of and statutes. And they've been hiding their lie progressions for how the people that run the prisons are also recorded since they were kids and their neighbors involved with predicate acts with them. Identity thefts, frauds, rolls, uses of investigations of investigators missed even by them. So we're going to have to examine, this is what led up to the World Trade Center attack. And since, WFSB also has roles with military families with downtown Hartford, with the buildings around Fox Connecticut News that are involved with them attaching me to fake locations, sequence shifting. Also with the people on off the campuses, further with the principal child defenders campus, where the wire crimes and wire crime methods are involved with that. There is a Sean Dillon and Anna Dillon, and she switches in spelling of it and makes it Annie Dillon sometimes. And then these are police families that are involved also with military, that are involved with identity thefts and frauds and sustained and uses of that. So it's juxtaposed natures of organized crime, and there are criminal uses of separations of subjects while they have physical delusions, while they are rules crimes predators, not just sequence shifting, but rules crimes predators. So all kinds of federal rules of evidence is crimes, like identity thefts, obviously. Common sense. Doesn't even have to be explicitly written in the federal rules of evidence. How people read such books, because the bar itself, because of recorded, like a Trantolo and Trantolo. I asked them politely. Then I was impolite after in a response online, because the behaviors and evidence. They can't respond when people to mandated law property. When people respond, they fabricate audio and video with the predators. Now he's been involved with sustained crimes through kids and crime methods that are bound on the child campuses, as ones through time recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed, involved with military and with FBI leadership and with CIA families, also confessed, demonstrated identity thefts for pretend ties to me. And on Facebook, where the judges and prosecutors are criminally involved with them, and with the Sciello family, and with the mayors, and with the people that protest the mayor regarding a shooting, where they have the people that protest the mayor regarding the shooting, and they have the shooter's police department, Wethersfield Police Department, and they have the locations next to the shooting, like Wethersfield Pizza, is with Steven Stocco and Maria Vizino, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts, and confirmed them and involved with predicate acts with Wethersfield Police, Intercity, with courts, judges and prosecutors involved with them, with on-off Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, connected crimes to their roles with them, with people on, on my street. I never saw them on my street, Steven Stocco. I don't know if I ever saw Maria Vizino on my street. I never saw her. I never knew who she was when I was in the entire time I was in high school. Then I only knew her name repeated to me by an Eric or by a Mike Violet, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated having been abused by judges and prosecutors and military family associated with them, military police families associated with them, with downtown Hartford, and identity thefts and frauds, with people associated that run the prisons and that have military and interbranch, and that's right around the corner from the Capitol. They also have locations on Park Street and a Lance Cuddy, people tied to a Lance Cuddy, on off the state prison offices. Now there's a Fienza family, also strangers, saw me with all these natures of confessions at once regarding the Dillon family involved with uses of kids on my street and of fields and parks for a crime method, as his roles with the mayors and with Joe Aiello, with crimes on off online and with uses of Facebook for their roles with people on the child sex offender registry. Joe Aiello also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by Joe DeMoro, and I never had a conversation about him with Mike Kerr. I never saw them together. I barely know the Mike Kerr. Sought me out to make confessions about his roles, his family's roles. To others out to make confessions about their roles with all kinds of things. But specifically, it was related to like a O'Brien family and to a Cololo family that the Wethersfield police brought up, of the Cololo family involved with them switching names and forging names. They're forcing that, though. Also, Wethersfield police made confessions to me and others about the Wethersfield police chief's involvements with this, and his daughter, an Aiello family. A Maiano family. It also recorded intercampuses, intercities involved with sequence shifts, identity thefts, and frauds, with investigators and investigations. And people at 3 parts at the end of the Berlin Turnpike involved with investigations, investigators and vetting identities and uses of their identities of the law to hide their life progressions with overt criminal enterprises, and with the people involved with identity thefts and frauds that also have that conjunction to downtown Hartford locations and demonstrations of uses of it down there with their identity thefts, fraud, sequence shifts. They walk by, and uses of it in cases. These are people in cases switching where the courts are involved with crime methods distinctly from the other branches of switching names, and of using that time to fabricate audio and video, and of using that time to hurt people if they come by themselves or if they come with whoever they come with, if family or whatever. And if they come with a lawyer, they're going to hurt them not distinctly, to hide their individual grouped and together life progressions, to hide their uses of and roles with federal crimes with databases and wire crime acts and methods. There's also a Pandolf family that I don't know sought me out for confessions of his roles with houses and people associated with private schools and with the courts and with the prosecutors and judges and sheriffs and police forms. Criminally involved, not caring though, because their hierarchies put them to that. But they don't have the right to have criminal rules where they don't have the right to, in other words, to criminally contribute to the federal criminals who had kids in my schools that are criminally involved with this, with their family members that were the co-defendants of Robert Luskin. But that's just one part of the case, where that was a case/S that was ongoing at the time of my father's death. This has nothing to do with that. This has where they attached my family and me to fake words with each other through time. Their identity theft, and they did this with courts, and with police forms, and with the media, and they attached me and other kids to fake locations. Now this is also, so we have to have a means peacefully to counter when people are faking conversations with us, and their roles with that, when there is sustained fact-cheating nature-oriented predicate acts on our locations, and uses of kids, forced to self-roles with that, in relationship to how it is recorded that they have fake positive used to hurt them, and fake negative, are a real negative, but with other influences here, and having been here, that are fact-cheating nature-oriented, and how they are self-valued, that keeps manifest means to get away with it. That are self-valuing, lipoaggressions right to each identity of question. What made slavery? A predicate acts delivery system method. It was evidence originally and still how lawyers had criminal foreign influence premises treatment self-valued. Sickly distinctly from the sickly distinct executive, judicial, and political branch that entertained and that self-valued, recorded overtly / insidiously, tactically, criminally foreign influence premises treatments uses and uses of that, which is where and how all locations, areas, and states are recorded effectively criminally foreign influenced. People pretend what is extensive is complicated. They're preventing mandated law from people from having reliefs for things like extortion, which the branches of government are involved with. Worse than extortion, identity thefts and frauds. Like, for example, that's what the witch trials were about. Also about, we'll see also the narratives of the witch trials in Wethersfield. These also has to do with all kinds of medical racketeering and uses of Hartford hospitals campus originally and still, where military families and where medical families, where crimes on that location and other medical locations recorded and involved with them, with child offenders intercities, because they're kept needing to hide live aggressions. So bad things happen also because of how that breaching method kept so much manifest with order to it, where no one was watching the order to it. So to see that order, you have to stay with what is true, simple. There is people stacking in New York City that was forced by a predicate acts delivery system method. We're going to make a conviction, and we're going to sustain uses of who denies that, uses of their premises treatments, which you're going to observe are criminally foreign influenced. We're going to call that out. Their delusions rot. There are roles as rules, crimes, predators, as identity thefts and frauds roles. Opinion natures that everyone not realizing mostly. But so you're going to see leaders are going to start to buckle, because everything they writ was fake. Everything they tell themselves is fake. CT must break. So follow mandated law. Pick one name in sequence.